What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Moguls. My name is Findlay-Shirras, and on today's show, we have Jay Niblick, founder and CEO of WizeHire, a recruitment software company that helps organizations find and hire the best talent, with a focus on real estate, helping brokerages and teams find their next great realtor. So we're definitely going to be digging into this topic today, learning about his software, because so many teams and brokerages struggle to find great realtors to join them. And they need to reach more candidates and conduct more effective interviews and select the team members correctly and with confidence. And so Jay's going to help us out today. He's also well known for executive coaching, being the founder and CEO of Metrics, a professional consulting firm that's been around for over 20 years, helping over 6 million employees across 10,000 organizations. He's also the author of many books, including The Profitable Consultant and What's Your Genius? How the Best Think for Success, where the foreword for that book is done by Tony Robbins. So I'm excited to get to know Jay and pick his brain on how to be successful and build great teams that are successful. So thank you, Jay, for being on the show.
Thanks for inviting me. Gosh, yeah. You build me up. I'm going to have to just pay you to walk around and introduce me at parties and stuff. It's like, hey.
I'm happy to do it, man. You got a pretty cool story, and I want people to kind of get to know you and your story. So why don't you give people, how did you get into professional consulting? Because you've been doing it for so long. And how did you get Tony Robbins to write the foreword for your book?
So I got into consulting. I was in the Navy. I got out of the Navy, went back to school, and got into sales at Johnson & Johnson after I graduated college. It was medical sales, and I loved it, and I was good at it, and my medical background helped a lot with that. I think that's why I landed the job. But I knew I wanted to kind of do my own thing. Early on, I knew I always probably wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own company. It just kind of, I liked sales because I was alone. The manager was 2 states away, and I was pretty independent and always have been fiercely. So I like that, but then I was like, man, I'm making millions of dollars for all these other people. What the hell? But I get it. They put the time and money in and the risk, and so they get to keep all the money. So I started consulting on the side, and long story short, I liked the use of personality assessments. And there was quite a few out there. Some of them were really bad software, but it was neat. Something about the way they worked. Understanding what was driving the people that I was trying to consult to made a lot of sense. Like, all performance seemed to be between the ears. Mm-hmm. Business processes and what was going on, but why? Why were those people making those decisions? And so I found a science called axiology that hadn't really been developed very well. And I wrote my own first psychometric instrument. My degrees are in organizational psychology and behavior, so it made sense. I made the first personality assessment called the attribute index. And similar to your story, I only built it for my own use as a consultant coach. But then the next guy I knew said, ooh, cool, can I use that? And the next consultant, she says, ooh, I want to use that too. And pretty quickly, I realized in the first year, the business model isn't me just using this. I've made something that could go to endless numbers of consultants. And so Intermetrics was founded 20 years ago. Early on in there, one of our consultants using my profiles was working with Tony Robbins and his company on some things. And Tony saw the profile and said, what the hell is that? I've seen DISC, I've seen some value stuff, I've seen other things, but that's new. And he fell in love with it, and they introduced me to Tony, and Tony wanted me to teach him everything there was. And so I coached Tony for a couple of years on formal axiology and how to use it and how to understand people better with it. And he integrated it into some of his practices. And he's been licensing profiles for me ever since and using them in his own personal circle as well. So as friends, when it came time to write the book is about a 7-year study of what we saw trends in. It's called What's Your Genius? And we were looking at 7 years with 197,000 people. And we realized there were some trends that the best performers did certain things based on their personality. And it was about understanding their personality and then using that information to be authentic. And so Tony was involved in some of that and was interviewed in the book as part of it. So he was fine with writing the foreword for it.
What are some of those trends?
There's only 2. We wondered, are there personality traits that always seem to boil to the top, for all the top performers, but across all industries, any job, sales and management and leadership, and it doesn't matter. And there weren't. And excuse my French, but it scared the shit out of me. It was 7 years, lots of PhDs, a lot of time and money. And they came back and said, yeah, we were looking for some that had a statistically significant correlation. There are none. And I was like, well, shut up. What do you mean? 7 years building a house. And they're like, yeah, no, we can't. Yeah. But what they said is, but wait, it's not all, don't jump off the building just yet. There are two things. If there's only two things, it was self-awareness and authenticity. So the best performers, whether you're a listing agent, a buyer's agent, a police officer, an engineer, an accountant, whatever, the best performers out of those 197,000 knew their personality better than the others. The average Joe on the street had about a 5.5 out of 10 self-awareness. You stop a random person in your office and say, hey, what are your 5 greatest natural strengths? They're going to start thinking, I'm good at this. I guess I'm good at that. And you talk to the top performers that were in one of 5 levels of performance. They were at the 5th level. The job was performing, the company said, these are the 5th level, the highest performers we have in all these different roles. And you ask those folks, what are your top 5 greatest strengths? And they read them off like they were on a laminated card in their wallet. I'm decisive, I'm assertive, I'm innovative, I'm a proactive guy, I'm a practical thinker. Bang, 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 bang. And the second one was authentic. Just because they knew that, the top performers said, I got into jobs where knowing what I'm great at, my success depends more on that and very little on what I suck at. Because on the other side of that card was the 5, 6, 10 things that they sucked at. These are not my talents. This is what I'm not good at. And the alignment of that with their job was higher. So we found people that didn't have great performance. They knew their strengths, but they were in a job where the majority of the success depended on things that they naturally weren't great at. If you're familiar with DISC, let's say, just one of the assessments, somebody who was a 20C, which for those that aren't familiar means they're not great with detail. They don't like accuracy, but they found themselves in jobs that were incredibly detail oriented, tons of detail, lots of specifics, lots of numbers. And they said, well, I got to get better at that. That's the job requires this. So I have to improve in that. But nobody's changing their DISC assessment to where their natural behavioral style, after reading a book, they all of a sudden, oh, I'm great at detail. It's a natural talent based on the way your brain is wired. You're not changing that overnight or over a year, even 5 years. It's very difficult to change the neural network in your head.
Well, so I have a few questions I want to get into, but you kind of touched on the very end. Do you think people's strengths change over time? And so I could do a DISC assessment, a strengths test, and for how I am right now, but then in 5, 10 years later, when I have kids or some other thing happens in my life, do you find it changes, or do you think people's strengths are their strengths? It's innate for their whole life?
Oh, it's innate, but it's not fixed. I coined a term many years back called glacially dynamic. So there's misnomers out there where some of the people that use DISC or teach DISC, unfortunately, go, it's carved in stone. When you're 16 or 18 or whatever the hell the number is, they go, that's it. You're going to be a high D the rest of your life. Not true. All right. I'm 50 years old. My behavior today is very unlike what it was when I was 16. Thank God. It changes. It just changes slowly. So is it stable enough for us to make decisions on with regards to leadership, hiring today? Yes, because you're looking at 3, 5, 7 years kind of slow change. So unless you have a very significant life event, emotional event, some traumatic type of thing or something, that's typically going to be a very slow curve over your life. But again, in 5 and 10 years, you can see somebody that when they started out selling as a buyer's agent or a regular agent, 5, 6 years, 7 years later, they're getting into a team leadership role, and you see that the C has gone up, and the D has maybe come down a little, or the I has come down a little bit, because they realize I need to manage operations. I need to build a company, which good team leaders in real estate build teams and companies. They don't just, I need 5 buyer's agents to give all the stuff I hate to do. Yeah. They really build companies. They think like entrepreneurs and CEOs, and they put processes into place, and they put systems, and they create job differentiation. And so that person's profile 10 years ago may have been a pure hunter, DI, no SC, just out the door, get it going, no details. I hate structure. Just let me do it off the seat of my pants. And you'll see, and I've seen it, but now they look more like DCs, and they think like leadership, like COOs and CEOs,
How do you test? So the next thing I want to get into was testing for self-awareness and testing for authenticity, because you'd want to do that in the hiring process, the recruiting process. How do you test against those things?
Self-awareness for us. So WizeHire helps it helps people hire in a couple of ways. One, we're going to be really good at getting the job out to 60 job boards. So it's about increasing the number of applicants you get. And that's one of our expertises. But then when people apply, we're filtering them by giving them the DISC and the values profiles that we've built. And we have a benchmark. So we've studied the role. We've looked at thousands of individuals in that role: buyer's agent, ISA, receptionist, director of first impressions, whatever your titles are, office manager, sales, team leader. And we know that the personality assessments have certain trends that in this role, okay, so the study showed there were no certain behavioral traits that were universal across all jobs, but in a job, we definitely see trends. Like for this type of outside sales, you definitely need a higher D. You definitely need a high economic drive. All these different characteristics that some of the listeners here may not be as familiar with, using some, terms that aren't necessarily understood universally, but personality traits and these characteristics do show that they trend to certain numbers in certain jobs. So self-awareness in our world isn't as important because we've created software algorithms that look at all those candidates and rank them against that benchmark. So the hiring manager has the awareness. So in a hiring scenario, the hiring manager is the one that needs the awareness of, are these natural talents going to be a good fit for the job? And our system says excellent fit, very good, average, poor. And it helps that hiring manager go, okay, these are the people that their natural innate talents are similar to all the other people that perform very well in this role.
Does your tech do all the testing, or do you also use other tests as well, like Gallup, Strength Finder, and?
Nope, just uses the DISC and the values and the attribute index in certain cases, and in many cases just the DISC and the values. So it's behavioral fit and a cultural motivational fit.
Cool. Okay. So then authenticity. So the hiring manager needs to have awareness of who this person is, even if that person doesn't. Authenticity, you want the person to be authentic. How do you test for that?
Well, we're not testing for it. Authenticity is a comparative analysis where you're literally with a human sitting there going, what are the requirements of this job? And what are your natural talents and non-talents, and how do they fit up against it? So it's kind of subjective, but we've been able to quantify it. And we don't worry about testing for authenticity, because if you're hiring somebody with an excellent fit, that's authentic. See, that's where WizeHire came about. We said, this study is showing we need to get better at putting people into jobs that fit their natural talents more authentically. So if you let the profiles guide you, obviously the resumes are important, whether you like them or not in the interviews, there's a whole bunch of other things. Personality assessments should never be more than maybe a third, right, of the entire hiring decision. Mm-hmm. Fortunate that somebody would ever make it the entirety of it. Maybe a third, 33%. The other 33% should be coming from past experience and performance. In many cases, that means something, whether they're in real estate or not. And the other third should be present. I'm interviewing them. How do I like them? How did they do when they met the rest of the team? What am I seeing today? But yeah, it's designed to say, if it says excellent, we know if you put them in this role, that's going to be an authentic fit.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's zoom back out again and talk about WizeHire. So why did you start this, and what's been like the growth story over time?
Well, we started it because we saw, even though we have about 1,700 consultants in 52 countries on the Intermetric side, there's a whole lot of small to medium-sized business owners that are never going to get to use those profiles, because we don't just sell them off a website. They have to come with a consultant that helps with that sort of analysis of how do these fit the role. It required a master trained consultant to be able to interpret those two and say, in the context, I think this is a great fit. I think this is why this is or isn't working. But below the line, companies said, I can't afford $5,000, $7,000, $10,000. Not going to do it. Maybe an executive VP or a CEO or something, And so WizeHire came about, where myself and Sid, my co-founder at WizeHire, worked together at Intermetrics. And we said, we need to create some way that the average hiring person on the street, not even a hiring manager, just the owner, the team leader in real estate, let's say, a business owner who doesn't necessarily know a lot about hiring. They're not from an HR background. They don't have time. It's a collateral responsibility. They're running the business, and now I have to go hire somebody. And they're not big enough to have a 3-person HR department. They need something that's affordable and a computerized consultant, if you will, that can make that assessment for them. So the building of the benchmark software, that was the founding of WizeHire. The seminal piece that we had was this software algorithm that created the benchmark and could compare unlimited candidates against it like a consultant would, but consistently, time over time. So that's where WizeHire came from. It's since grown to where we realized that those clients of ours were saying, well, I love the fact that you're helping me decide if they're authentic and a good fit. I love you're comparing them against top performers. I only have 6 applicants. How do I get more applicants? And then we built out systems of posting the job to the top 60 job boards because we realized they need help even getting applicants to apply. And then we built out an ATS, an applicant tracking system, because they weren't sure how to organize them. So all the bench strength that wasn't in that organization because they're just not a 100-person company with a 5-person HR staff, they needed all of that built out. So now we're helping with the creation of the job description, the posting and sourcing of the number of candidates that come in, then evaluating them based on whether they're a good fit or not, and giving them the tools to keep them all in order and track all the way through the process to help decide which one they should hire.
Now, one of the things I've noticed that I've underdone in the past and have had to really focus on is before I even try to look at resumes and put it out there, I need to figure out the role and the responsibilities and who I'm looking for and the skills and the character traits I'm even looking for in the first place. And I wonder if you've seen that being a problem where before people start hiring, they really need to figure out what they're looking for first. And maybe the reason why they don't think about it is because they almost don't even know. So how do you help people figure out the goal?
Education up on the website. But first, you're absolutely right. I was just talking about helping write that job description. That's part of what our process is, because we realized people would go up and go, I don't know. I need someone that does what I don't want to do. It's very common that we work in real estate. We're a team leader that says, I'll do the listing and I just have too many buyers and I can't do both. So I'm going to choose the listing. I only have 2 hours this afternoon. I'm not going to let the list go so I can go meet with the buyers. So, and that happens enough where they go, I need somebody to take all the buyers. I don't want to deal with them and they're not as profitable for me. I want to focus on the listings. But that's it. That's the impetus of their team. And they go, I don't know what a buyer agent really does. I don't know a job description. What are they supposed to do? And so it's from this embryonic stage, we see it all the time where that one first hire, that person in your situation goes, do it. They don't think like a business owner that sits down and says what you just said. So we have to teach them to do that because it's crucial. You don't start with what are your objectives for this individual? What talents do they have to have? What talents different than yours? Because you don't want to deal with the buyer agents or the buyer side. What is it that they have to have that makes them love to deal with the buyer side? So we have templates that are up there that flesh out the job description. It's got to be a story. In today's day and age, it's marketing. You know this. You don't put up the Craigslist ad that says wanted, ampersand, asterisk, exclamation point, money sign, rock star, buyer agent. And then like 4 bullets that says, if you're not ready to make more money than your girlfriend can spend, that's actually one we got, and that guy, don't waste my time because I ain't going to babysit you, and that's it. And they put it out there. They're learning slowly and we're trying, I hope we're helping them to learn that it's a story, it's marketing.
Yeah.
And if you don't think about it like you do marketing to the buyers and sellers, if it's not entertaining and educating and compelling and, convincing, it's not going to work. Today's talent pool, they want you to sell them. They want a story. They want a sexy, exciting, compelling story. So, and salespeople get it, but the first thing is they just don't ever even think about that. So as soon as you tell these folks this is selling, then you watch them shift and go, oh, I can sell. But I never thought about selling to a candidate.
Yeah.
They didn't, but you have to.
Is there anything that you've seen in the hiring process. And there's been lots of books about the hiring process. There's the top grading methodology. Google had their book that they came out with. And I know personally, I've tried a lot of different ways to recruit and to hire and to interview. Is there anything that you see people holding on to that was from the past, that was the stuff that they were taught of how to do this old school, that you are finding does not work anymore, and that here are the new school ways to do it?
A couple of things. So in many cases, it's hanging on to old legacies or just not having any. Because think about it, a lot of these people came in, they got into a regular role as a realtor under a broker. They were the 1 out of 10 that survived past 2 years. 90%, 80 to 90%, depending on who you read, of all new agents will fail to survive the first 2 years. And so they were one of the few. And that means they could sell. And it was just accidental, maybe in many cases, that they got there and it worked. And now they're really good at it. And they grow to a point where they have more business than they can handle. There's 65, 75, 80 deals, sides on their own. And they're like, man, I can't keep up with this. So they either need an admin or they need a buyer agent or somebody else. Many of them never were taught how to hire. They didn't come out of 20 years in corporations where professional HR people showed them, this is how you hire, and these are the steps to it. So they either come with some legacy because they just think that's what somebody else did with them when they were hired in an old job, or no legacy. You're like, I don't know, I'm just winging it. So some of those items are, you see people that interview for people like themselves, and it's a big one. When I interview somebody, I like to know that I'm liking them. If I got to work with them, I got to like them. I want them to be like me. Here's the problem. Unless you're hiring your own replacement, you're looking for a personality that's different than yours, which means you're probably not going to be super in love with them. So one of the biggest problems we've seen in hiring comes back to, I'm hiring somebody just like me. We're sitting down, we're yucking it up, we're having a pint and talking about sports teams and hunting and fishing, and this is all awesome, and I love this. Hey, you curse like I curse. And now go do the other job that I hate to do. But
Right.
if you hire somebody you interview somebody whose personality is perfect for that, they're not going to necessarily have the same communication style as you do. And you're going to look in the interview and go, God, they're kind of awkward or a little geeky, or man, they ask a ton of questions. I don't like questions, like, oh my God, they annoyed the hell out of me in that interview. Well, naturally you're going to think, I don't like them as much, because it's not based on who you like as much. It doesn't have anything to do with that per se.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggies. Number two, just putting so much instance on things that don't matter. So we'll look at people that look at a resume and there's one typo in it. And again, this comes back to, what are you hiring for? I've had people say, oh my God, that's a misspelled word. Boom. But it's a sales job. And they're not hiring an accountant. They're not hiring a transaction coordinator. They're not hiring an analyst. They're hiring a salesperson who typically doesn't do great with detail, but you can't be all things to all people. So they make that, oh yeah, no, if it says this, there's people out there that have lists of, if they say these words, or it's never that easy. It's never that black and white. It has to be the totality of everything. So use personality assessments to get an objective, accurate assessment of what the strengths are. Look at the resume, but don't put much credence in it. And the reason I say don't put much credence in it is they wrote it. It's like reading a brochure from Ford.
Yeah.
What's Ford going to say?
I was going to say whether you thought resumes and cover letters are dead. I know we go, okay, they wrote a personalized cover letter, check. Okay, that's better than not, and it's better than not even having one. And the resume, it's like, I know me personally, and tell me what you think about this and how you educate people to go through resumes and cover letters. I look at resumes and I go, okay, what are the companies they worked for? What are the cultures of those companies? Because they have taught them things that if I have to reteach them things, that's going to be an uphill battle. So I look for some cultural similarities in the companies. Yeah. If they can explain what they did using numbers and metrics, I instantly like them more. And if it's a whole bunch of like fluff speak, I don't like them as much. So I scan them for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's about it. What are your thoughts on resumes, cover letters, and how to go through them, if at all?
I think you nailed it in the way we would teach it, in the way I coach it to clients. It's what big picture things can you learn, right? But and the only other thing I would add is it's content or context specific. So if I'm hiring a marketing intern or a marketing person or somebody who's going to do social media marketing and website marketing, I'm going to place a lot more importance in how that cover letter is written. I'm going to place a lot more importance into the language and how well written the resume is, right? Because that's what I'm hiring them for. If I'm hiring an administrative assistant, a transaction coordinator, an accountant, a bookkeeper, I will look for typos, and I want to make sure that there's no commas missing, or this is not misspelled, or they left a gap, or they put date but forgot the second one, or because again, that's their job. So I look at the resume for what can I learn relative to what I'm wanting them to do. But I don't get stuck into the details. Like you said, it's 2, 3, 5 minutes max. What do I learn? What don't I learn? Some other things you're looking for job hoppers. If this person's had 10 jobs in the last 10 years, or 5 jobs in the last 10 years, it's like they've never lasted more than 2 years. And then it's a totally different industry, and then a totally different industry. And it's like, are they just bouncing around? But again, I'm not going to can them. So
right.
Last point is, a lot of people unfortunately they'll find one big variable or 2 big variables that for them are killers. Like if they can't do this, then they're out of here. And I don't think there's any one thing that should just be the deal killer.
Yeah.
We see a lot of people in real estate, they're looking for licensed agents only. I only want a buyer agent that's got a license. Well, I'm here to tell you, economists will argue right now that with unemployment being 3.7 in the United States, 4%, economists have argued, 4% of the population are unemployable. So you could argue there's 0% unemployment. It's a 50-year low. So there are not a whole lot of people out there. It's going to take time to hire. It's going to be tough to find the right people. You got to expect it. And people come in all the time and they're like, I only want a licensed agent. And I know Canada is a little different because it takes a lot longer and there's more higher bar to get your license. But they either have to understand, if I want that, in the US, according to the National Association of Realtors, only 6% to 7% of agents change brokerages in a given year. So look in your area, look in your neighborhood, how many agents are in total working there with a license right now, and cut 94% of them out, because only 6% of them are going to probably move. And that's your pool. So one of the big trends we see is people going to outside real estate. Some of the largest teams in the country that we work with, and they're doing 12, 13, 1,500 houses a year. The last 12 agents in one of them that have been the top agents never had a license when they were hired. They came in because they were outside sales professionals. So if you want fast, you're going to have to let go of the license and say, well, I'll take someone who's a professional salesperson and I can get them to learn the product, which is real estate.
Yeah. What have you found are the best industries that create great realtors?
I haven't seen a specific trend in any one realty or industry, like, oh, you take somebody from car sales or insurance or something, but outside sales. Find somebody who has a history, 5, 6 years. They have been supporting themselves and their family as an outside salesperson. I don't think it works quite as well to say somebody came from a call center and was an inside salesperson and they sat on the phone dialing for dollars, and that's a sales position. I'm not looking for retail sales, because that's not sales. You're standing in a Verizon wireless store, love the company, use them myself, but that's not sales. Retail sales, like standing in Nordstrom's, I don't want somebody that comes in and says, oh, I've been in sales for 6 years. That's not sales. I'm talking out on the street, and that's why I say outside sales, pounding the curb, driving from town to town, meeting with clients. Yeah. And I want a high growth. Some sales are a lot of farming, 80% maintenance and farming with 20% growth. That's what you're not looking for, because they're a company that already they're a big brand name that has 75% market share. They inherited a bunch of clients from their last salesperson, and they go around and maintain those, and they're having to grow an additional 20% of new customers they've never met. You want to find an outside salesperson who has mostly growth as their commission.
Right.
They have some existing clients, but 50% or more of their commission comes from brand new clients, because that means they have to be hunting and prospecting.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. You got to have a hunter prospector.
You got any favorite interview questions?
Um, I don't necessarily. To me, I start with a resume and I do what you're doing here, which is I interview them like I just want to meet them. I'm not a fan of, like if you were a color, what would it be? Because there's no real standardized answer. And that's one of the things I'd actually rail against is when somebody says, what was your favorite course in college or something like that? And then they say, oh, this is a good answer. This is a bad answer. The right questions to ask are getting to know the person and talking about performance. And I'm looking for awareness in that self-awareness. Do they know what they were great at and why didn't that work? Why did it work? If I do have one, I guess part of it is tell me what you're great at. And then I'll flip that around and say, tell me what you suck at.
Yeah.
But it's pretty open-ended, all good questions should be open-ended. So I'll ask the guy, what are you great at? And how have you managed to make sure that you've used that to succeed? And then the opposite side of that question is, what do you suck at? Give me the, 3-5 things that you suck at. And how have you managed to make sure that that doesn't get in your way? And an example of a great answer is they're aware. They know there's things that they're great at. They know there's things that they suck at. They're honest to you. It's awkward in an interview for somebody to say to a potential employer, I suck at this. But a bad answer is someone that either doesn't know what those are or isn't willing to tell you. And, if we're having a dialogue, we're sitting around for an hour, I'm going through the interview, and I'm asking you, what do you suck at? And you're unwilling to tell me, it either means you're incapable of telling me because you don't know, which is a bad answer, or you do and you try to, you mask it. Oh, I'm a horrible workaholic. It's one of my worst traits. And I'm like, shut up, like that, what do you suck at? And the best answer is, I hate detail, or I hate this, or I'm not good at that. I'm incredibly impatient. And here's how I make sure that it doesn't get in my way at work.
Cool. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to get to know you more, learn from you, maybe become a client of WizeHire?
If they sign up, we'll start calling them Wise Agents. I think that's fine. I'll give you a little nod if we start using that. I like it. You'll get the citation.
There you go.
Grant's Wise Agent. I like that. Not kidding. You just check us out. It's WizeHire.com, WizeHire.com. And so we're over there. We're glad to give you demos. Our salespeople we have hiring coaches. One of the things that's really cool about our company, I think, is we're an incredibly high touch support firm. So it's not just software as a service and you sign up and you use it like Dropbox or, Trello or something, where if you understand how to use it, great. But if you don't, you got to put a ticket in, and sometime in 24 hours, somebody from maybe in or outside the country emails you back and says, referencing ticket number for customer number, here's what we'd recommend, read these 3 pages. You can get on the phone with our hiring coaches. They know you. You'll get to know their first name. They will know your first name. And so you can chat with them. You can get on the phone with them. How do I change this job description? Why am I getting not many as clients as I want? How do I post this into this new market? Whatever questions you have, they're certified in the profiles, and we don't call them support people. We call them hiring coaches because that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So go on over, check it out. We'll give you a free demo, and we'll even set you up with time to have one of those coaches show you what's going on, or get one of our sales guys to set up a demo for you.
And is it just for agents and teams or brokerages, or what kind of customers do you work with?
We've branched outside of real estate, but not a big surprise, right? So all realtors know mortgage people and lenders, and so that started out, and then we've got insurance people, and we're into a bunch of different industries now. But we started in real estate. That's where we honed it, and we started because we wanted proof of concept. 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, we said we want to find a job that's a real job. It's a legitimate career, and the trend is horrible. The success rate's horrible, and with that 90% failing to survive the first 2 years, teams that are using our software, we see more like a 30% turnover. So we've cut that way down from 90% failing to 30, which is probably the best we might ever see. There's always going to be churn, and that's good and healthy. but I think most of it, 80% of it's probably still real estate, and all jobs inside real estate we can help you with.
Well, hey, I want to thank you for being on the show because recruiting and hiring, finding people, and people are the #1 asset. They are the reason why you will exponentially grow in your business. And it's one of the toughest things. So I encourage all of you, if you want to hire more people, if you want to hire better people, check out his software, check out his information, because that is a difference maker for you to grow your team and grow your business. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube show and the podcast, so you can get to know more industry professionals, more people who can help you with your business, then click on the button, subscribe, click on the bell icons, get notified so you can always stay up to date with new technologies, and you can always get to know people in the space who can help you be great at real estate. We'll see you next time.